Ladies and gentlemen, in this RedGamingTech.com video we have further information on the Xbox 720's always-on requirement. When don't we, it seems. Anyway, in regards to the Xbox 720, there has been a reported email that has been circulating among full-time Xbox employees, or at least employees working full-time on the next generation Xbox. This email says, and I quote, "There are a number of scenarios that our users expect to work without an internet connection, and those should just work regardless of their current connection status. Those include, but we're not limited to, playing a Blu-ray disc, watching live TV, and yes, playing a single-player game." Now, there are a number of things that we could take away from this. This is out of quote. The first is that, first of all, it obviously confirms, and I use the word confirms because, once again, it's not like Bill Gates has gone up on stage or something. Obviously, it won't be Bill, most likely, introducing the new Xbox, but I just use it as an example. It's not like Bill has gone on stage and said, hey, our new system actually has a Blu-ray. But this comes to us from Ars Technica, who are a pretty big tech website. So, once again, they have sources who reportedly sent this information in. Once again, you could go to our website and there's links and stuff to the article if you want to check that out. But, as I was saying, it does indeed include a Blu-ray player. Now, as I was saying in my own article, I don't particularly think that that's anything particularly special or news. I think people are going to try and make this into, you know, the Xbox 720 is going to have Blu-ray and so forth, but in reality it's not really anything new or anything that's that impressive as a rumor to me, because it's kind of like that's the only way they can go. People expect now to be able to play Blu-ray movies on consoles, whether you like it or not. It's an expectation, and HD DVDs got, well, basically spanked in the war, to the point where they basically folded very quickly. So reality-wise, is the only media that's really left is digital distribution and Blu-ray. And obviously, you've got DVDs, but let's face it, one of the reasons that Microsoft's Xbox 360 can't have Metal Gear Solid 4, and therefore by default the Legacy Collection that of course is being released for the PS3, is because of the media it's using. Now, in my opinion, it's a shame that the Xbox 360 didn't include a HD DVD as a standard, but that's a different story, and I've already gone into that in a previous video. So it's not really anything that surprising there. You need it for the next generation games. They, quite simply put, are going to be a hell of a lot bigger. And in an interview on the PlayStation 4 developers, or should I say also PlayStation 3 developers, Santa Monica Studios, they're actually saying that one of the challenges now in next generation consoles isn't actually the fact that you've got all this, is you don't have enough memory, it's that you actually need to fill the memory. In other words, there's no point in actually having a resource if you cannot use it, because it's the equivalent of, well, you don't have the resource. So, obviously speaking, it's not just about the fact that they've actually got the Blu-ray drive, it's about the fact that you need to efficiently be able to get the data from that media. And that brings us to the next rumor, and that is, how will this actually affect the system? Because this rumor has been touted around for a while now about whether the system actually requires an internet connection. And some people have said that it's going to be pretty darn stringent. In other words, that the games will simply not load up. Others have said that it's going to be a lot more flexible. So, for example, this is possible that if you want to play a single-player game, it will act like the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, or indeed any consoles before that. You could even say PlayStation 1 if you prefer. In other words, you take the disc out of your case, you put it into the machine, you press the button, the disc tray closes, and it loads up after a few moments, and that's it. That's all she wrote. However, obviously, if you want to play online, you need an internet connection, and by extension to also download/purchase DLC and all the other bits and bobs that you would expect. And that's one level. The other one would be a more, I suppose, more acceptable, particularly if you're a PC gamer. That would be something along the lines of you buy a game and you put the game into your system, and it would either install the entire thing and or a good portion of the file, which is possible because we know that the next generation Xbox actually has a hard drive as a standard. I'm not really exactly surprised if it, was a pretty big hard drive either, because once again we're talking about a lot of data here, and I'm not just talking about from the game side, because obviously the next generation Xbox, which seems to be called Fusion, but obviously that's not confirmed yet, it seems to me that we're going to be seeing a very large hard drive because it's also we're dealing with a lot of media. So in other words, it could have a full or a partial install, regardless of which, afterwards it's basically tied to that Xbox and or to that account. I'm going to be surprised if it's an account. It would make much more sense to me if it were, because quite simply put, as I've said to you previously, if I want to take that game disc to my friend, say Bob, and Bob doesn't have, that game, then obviously I might want to take it around his house so we can try it out, and obviously if he likes it, then he can purchase it. It makes a hell of a lot more sense to do that than, say, me taking the entire system with me, because that's just a pain in the butt. I'm not saying it will work like that. That's much more akin to how PCs work. In other words, if you have a Battle.net account, which obviously is from Blizzard, which has World of Warcraft, StarCraft, that type of thing, or a Steam account indeed, you can actually play Steam accounts offline, but you need to originally activate it on that machine using an internet connection. So in other words, once it's activated, you can go ahead and play it if your internet dies or what have you, and that's pretty handy. Obviously, there is that restriction at the start. You do need that internet connection to initially say, hey, I've registered this game, and that's, whatever it is. So whether you buy a code from online, whether you buy the game from a local retail store, whatever, as soon as the key is actually associated to your account, you're good and golden. In fact, in that respect, you could actually theoretically sell keys via the Microsoft store, in theory, but obviously I don't really think that's going to happen practically. Who knows, though. Now, there is another thing that this also raises. You'll notice there that in the email itself, it mentioned about watching a live TV. Now, this is another rumor that's been persisting almost as long as the always-on requirement. It basically goes that you will be able to plug your system into a cable TV box, and obviously that box will connect to your Xbox 720 via a HDMI input, and then obviously an HDMI output will then connect to your TV. In effect, the Xbox 720 will become a pass-through device, and the purpose here, in theory, will be to do things such as pause live TV, access TV listings, maybe even be able to, say, overlay games or whatever on top of that, maybe access the internet and see, information from IMDb or whatever on, hey, I'm sure I've recognized this actor, oh, okay, he's been in, so-and-so TV show. Honestly speaking, they've obviously not announced this further. I'm really hoping it's going to be something quite substantial and meaty. Obviously, the TV listings and so forth, at least in the UK, I'm not quite sure on the level in the United States, but I'm assuming at least it's the same type of level because, the States usually has at least our level of technology and this type of thing. In the UK, at least, we've got the access to the TV listings and so forth quite easily, quite readily. You just press a button and it just pops up. Not that I really watch much TV, I usually do mine through the internet, but whatever. So, yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be a lot more than that. Obviously, Microsoft themselves are said to be trying to resurrect or maybe even start their own TV programming. And indeed, apparently so, they're trying to do tie-ups with various big media outlets in the United States. I don't exactly know what the channels are. They haven't really said that much, but certainly TV shows such as Heroes are reported to be in the rumor for being resurrected. Obviously, this doesn't give us a jot of information in terms of solid information about what the system is and what it's not going to be able to do. However, I think it's going to be a very interesting experience if this is true, and it's definitely going for the whole entertainment in your living room type of affair. Anyway, hopefully you guys have found the information a little bit interesting. I think it's good that the measures are not going to be so draconian. There have been previous rumours on this, of course, that have said that, hey, you know what, there's a very good chance that in actuality these measures are not going to be that bad, they're not going to be that stringent. Because originally, people, including myself incidentally, were kind of worried about this, because I was really worried about the prospect of not only is the measures kind of, well, not only were the measures kind of, I would want to go overboard, but they were pretty damn tight from the original mentioning of them, which of course was that you actually need a connection to be able to do anything, or the system will basically just lock you out. It will just say, yeah, you've got X amount of time to connect to the internet, or a wizard will start. And I just thought to myself, that's not good, because Sony are obviously not doing that. They went on record and said that's not what we're interested in. And obviously, there were also the other rumours about blocking second-hand games and used games. It seems that that's also not going to happen, from what I've been reading. Although, once again, none of this stuff is confirmed. Obviously, we are getting dangerously close to the Microsoft press conference, and obviously I will be covering that extremely in depth. I will probably be up until the wee hours in the morning. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. So yeah, if you want to check out further, I have linked the article into the description, and all the stuff's there, so you can go check that out. So anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon. Take care, and bye for now.